You were so wrong if you thought UFC was just a sport for men. It's filled with all sorts of talented women, and I just can't get enough of their talent. Today, let's dive into the most memorable knockout by female UFC fighters. Let's start with one that involved two of the most amazing fighters. It's the Amanda Nunes takedown. Two of the scariest female mixed martial artists are Valentina Shevchenko and Amanda Nunes, and theirs was a match made in heaven as they squared up against one another. At UFC 196, spectators saw the bout between the two, and people couldn't keep themselves from screaming out loud. It was a great back and forth battle, with Nunes taking the early lead. Amanda slowed down Shevchenko with her powerful punches, and it was a sight to behold. In the second round, Nunes was in command until the very end, when Shevchenko began to get a little control, and then Shevchenko would finally come to life in the third round, unleashing savage strikes on Nunes. The final score was Nunes 39, Shevchenko 28. While both fighters were able to get a takedown, the judges ultimately awarded the victory to Nunes. If the fight had gone the complete 5 rounds, who knows what would have happened? I'm pretty sure one of them would have ended up being super hurt. Even though the 2017 rematch went the full 5 rounds, it was still a tight battle, and ever since then, fans have been demanding a trilogy. All we can do is wait and watch if something else happens.
Look at that. Nice. Excellent combination. And Amanda with a kick to the body.
Next is a fight that was so quick it had the world stunned. It's the Ronda Rousey fight. Ronda Rousey's last title defense in July 2014 was against Alexis Davis, and it lasted just 16 seconds. Yeah, you heard that right. The match was literally less than a half a minute long. She was that good. This was before she finished Kat Zingano in the quickest time in the bantamweight category. In the octagon, Rousey completely dominated Davis to win her 4th straight title and strike terror into the hearts of her rivals. And when I say it was a sight to behold, I really mean it. But here's the fun part. For her match against Davis, Rousey came up with a new strategy. The reigning champion stood up and exchanged blows with Davis, and this was a huge change from her usual fighting style, in which she quickly goes for the takedown. Rousey didn't start her judo takedown until after she caught her opponent with a good punch to the temple, and it looks like the hit really must have hurt. Finally, Rousey scored a technical knockout when the fight was stopped due to a lack of activity after she completed a takedown and landed 9 consecutive punches. Yeah, 9.
Right by Ronda. And a big throwdown. Can she do it right here? It's all over.
Up next is a time this champ made history. It's time Rose Namajunas showed her skills. On April 24, 2021, at UFC 261, Rose Namajunas made history by knocking out Weili Zhang in the first round of the Strawweight Championship title fight, making her the first woman in the UFC to defend a championship belt successfully. The battle got off to a sluggish start, with each fighter cautiously trying to get the upper hand. However, soon, both competitors began hitting strikes, and I was literally scared. It was that violent. Soon after Namajunas' head kick knocked Zhang to the ground, she joined her there, and she literally kept striking her until the referee came in and stopped the fight.
And Weili has landed several of those inside low kicks.
But give credit where credit is due. Although she was super unsteady and confused, Zhang stopped it right away. But even then, Namajunas' triumph was a major one and secured her a place in history. And it wasn't always easy for Rose. Previously, when she lost the championship to Jessica Andrade through a devastating slam at UFC 237 in 2019, Namajunas used the setback as motivation to improve her game. And then, all that effort eventually got her a rematch with Andrade at UFC 251. It was then that she got her chance at Zhang to make history. Up next is a match where Zingano left the world stunned. It's the Ultimate Fighter 17 finale between Zingano and Tate. It's been a couple of years since this fight took place in Las Vegas, yet it may still be the finest fight between women in history. Zingano sobbed on the way to the cage before psyching herself up for the fight, while Tate came out as determined as ever. The former Strikeforce and future UFC champion, won the first 2 rounds by narrow margins. But Zingano's aggressiveness and savage energy came out in the third. When Tate was taken down early in the fight, her opponent had the opportunity to open up with attacks, but she showed her signature grit by fighting back to her feet, and fans all over the world couldn't help but commend her for it. But as Zingano sought to regain her footing, she instead planted her back in the canvas with a knee, followed by many more as she regrouped and prepared to rise, bringing an abrupt and dramatic end to the fight. Next is a fight between 2 small yet super strong fighters.
She really does, and she's got to tighten it up a little bit. When she throws her combinations, she can't be looping.
Yep, I'm talking about Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Claudia Gadelha in the main event of the Ultimate Fighter 23 finale in December 2014. 2 of the tiniest fighters, Joanna Jędrzejczyk and #1 contender Claudia Gadelha, faced up in one of the best women's UFC fights in history. In the very first round, Jędrzejczyk showed that she is not a work in progress for anybody. She effectively defended 4 of 5 takedown attempts and knocked down Gadelha. At the end of the first 5 minutes, it was clear who had taken control, and Claudina had a lot to tackle. The fight heated up in the latter rounds, and ultimately a split decision was reached. In the last 10 minutes, Gadelha scored 6 takedowns, but she still couldn't keep Joanna on the mat to use her ground and pound trade technique. And of course, she knew it could be hard to win without the signature move. But Jędrzejczyk was unable to overpower Gadelha in the first 2 rounds. Plus, did you know that Gadelha immediately apologized to Jędrzejczyk after throwing a fist to her face at the final bell? Anyway, we later found out that the judges were all unsure of who was the winner. One official saw rounds 1 and 2 for Jędrzejczyk and rounds 2 and 3 for Gadelha, while 2 officials saw rounds 1 and 2 for Jędrzejczyk and rounds 1 and 3 for Gadelha. But after a lot of thinking, Jędrzejczyk was called the winner, and sadly, Gadelha never recovered from the blow to her reputation. And finally, a fight that was known to be one-sided. UFC 238, Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Eye. One of the most terrifying knockouts in history happened at UFC 238. You probably know about this one. Valentina Shevchenko defended her title against Jessica Eye, and she stunned the whole world. Bullet-landed kicks to the body all during the first round, which gave her the opportunity to go in and score. Then she showed off her refined grappling skills by easily taking her opponent down in no time. She finally made the change with ease and held on the ground until the final buzzer rang. And then, in the second round, Shevchenko continued where she left off, relentlessly kicking her opponent. I was then knocked out whole as Valentina landed a brutal head kick on her, and I literally cringed at how painful it must have been. To be honest, this was the fight that gave her the reputation of one of the greatest out there. So, which one of these was the worst in your opinion? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.